All right, we're back to speed running coaching. Fucking let's go Blizzard World. So Blizzard World, I think this is just gonna be a general theme that you can kind of see, and this is why I think we're gonna be fine on any of the escort maps really, because there is this common theme in the second point where it's really widely spaced with a lot of high ground over the central point of the map. So like you can run a lot of Widowmaker, we can run a lot of Winston and stuff like that, and I think that's where we get a lot of value is being able to run heroes like that, where some of you are particularly maybe more comfortable with it or get extra value out of because they're just so strong or because the map is just so favorable to them. So similarly, this high ground is going to be really important to control. Unlike the other maps, it's not going to be absolutely the end all be all though. You can still get away with running Brawl in this map because of the fact that it's curved and that makes it very compact. So you'll see that unlike, let's say, Hollywood or Eichenwald, where there's just like a big L shape or something like that, you have this big, okay, down, Epic Pen, thank you. You have this big curve where the point the distance the cart has to move is very much the same as all the other ones, or at least similar, but you can cut straight through basically to get to the other side of it very easily. So that part of it is going to make it so that you can run Brawl a little bit easier than you might have been able to on other second point escorts. So you can run Brawl if you'd like. I still advise like a Winston Diva, where you're claiming the high ground, contesting from up there, making sure that you're giving Widow the proper sight lines, whether she's going to try to play from like right here or something like that, or if she's going to try to move into a more aggressive positioning over here. But let's talk about first point. It's just kind of showing you the similarities that we're seeing. So we have a choke on Blizzard World, but it's going to be super duper fucking useless because it is way too far forward, and there's way too many ways to get behind. Well, not way too many ways, but this way is too good. This will put you right behind anybody who's holding at choke. So holding at choke is fairly worthless, and I'm sure you guys just don't normally hold at choke. I'm just not sure if you've been conscious as to why, and it's just that underpass puts you right behind people way too easily, and it gives you way too many angles onto them. So there's two main parts that we want to be holding on first point on Blizzard World, and it's not going to be both of them at the same time. It's either going to be one or the two. We're either going to want to hold this high ground up here, or we're going to hold these boxes on the right hand side. So we are going to hold the left hand side if we are running bunker. We do not run bunker. It's just not our nature, not our style, hasn't been what we played, and I don't think bunker is too great, honestly. We are going to hold the right hand side if... Wait, did I say them backwards? Fuck. I might have said them backwards. Shit. Rewind. We're going to hold the right hand... You only hold the right hand side, like this side over here that I'm circling, if you're running a bunker type composition, because you want to take advantage of all the space that the enemies have to like cover to get to you, to be able to poke them down with something that is very bunker-esque. This left hand side though is going to be where we want to hold most of the time, because this is where your snipers and divers are going to be playing from solid 60-65% of the time. So it's going to give them clear sight lines onto all of this. You did say bunker. Yeah, I know. I'm fucking stupid. Sorry. No, but it's going to give him clear sight line onto all of this space out here. I mean, it gives him more, but, it's also going to... That's where the defenders are coming from and stuff like that. So this is going to be very dive-centric. It's also going to be very, like, sniper heavy. But it's going to give your Winston or whatever, your ball, the ability to just drop down onto the enemies without using movement. This will also allow you to... okay, so first of all, hold on, camera. There's this space right here that you have to contest, which is connected to the stairs. So this is something that makes it difficult for the enemies to actually push into you, because you will have the ability to clearly see them pushing into you and put pressure on them while they do so. And then when they do manage to get even to this stage, they're still in a very confined space where you can still get a lot of value. So Ashe is actually super duper good at Blizzard World for things like this, because there's a lot of spaces where as you force your way through on attackers, you suddenly get very clustered together, and Ashe's dynamite farms for things like that. And then in the open space, she still gets excess value, right? So if you're playing a choke area, sure, Junkrat may be the quintessential choke punisher, but Ashe gets value both in the open space and in the cluttered space. So, then you're also going to have this space back here, which is going to be super good to contest, just in case of anything. You don't want to let any flankers control this area with this mega back here, because like I've noted before, this is going to let you have sightline onto the back of your composition when you start your retreats. Retreats are going to go something like this. You're going to go from high ground A to high ground B. It's fucking wild. But yeah, you're going to essentially... Hello, other people. Luna, I see that you messaged me. I haven't had a chance to look yet. About to retire from
okay, I can get in for a second.
Okay. So yeah, you're going to essentially rotate from this one high ground over here to the second high ground back above the point. And this is going to have a similar effect. Monkeys can drop down. If we're playing Monkey Roadhog can just kind of exist around this back area, rotate around coast if you want. Snipers can hold the high ground and make it difficult for people to get to them. And you can kind of just continue to prolong the fight and burn time while you give your DPS time to get picks by just keeping control of the high grounds and making it difficult for the enemies to push into you. So any questions on first point? Cool. So I already kind of talked about second point a little bit, but I do think that, you know, it's going to be similar to the way we play Rialto, the way we talked about Eichenwalds, the way that we look at Hollywood, controlling that high ground, playing that Widowmaker, keeping those sight lines open, making sure we're controlling spaces bit by bit to secure appropriate space for our Widowmaker, right? So if we start taking this high ground and we clear, like if we clear up to here or something like that, that means that our Widowmaker can hold in any position behind this. Our Widowmaker can't be in angles like right here when our tanks haven't even pushed past the crystal. So we just have to be aware of one another when we're pushing, because the tank's forward positioning and what they're allowed to get to from that forward positioning is going to determine what everybody else is really allowed to do, because tanks are the first and foremost punishers of the enemy team, right? DPS punish the enemy team by punishing when they expose themselves and dealing damage and stuff like that. But tanks can punish people who are in situations that are still protected. Because they have the health pools to do so, and because they can use defensive abilities to stay in those positions longer than squishies might otherwise be able to. So when we're playing on defense, Chloe messaged me as well. Oh my god, there's so many messages, man. Alright, so when we're playing this on defense, we want to be very mindful that we actually have priority control of this high ground, and we can place our kind of like snipers and stuff up here to have good sight lines. We want to be aware that we can take the time to place our Ana in a position where she can actively have two lines of sight protected, right? So she can use this to protect from this line of sight in certain ways, but she could also use this wall to protect from this certain line of sight. There's going to be no area where she can be protected from both, so we want to be mindful that we're at least clearing one of these sight lines for our Ana, right? So if the enemies are coming down mid, if they're coming down the normal kind of like cart path, we're going to make sure that maybe we're blocking them here so that our Ana can place closer to the purple cart and then be able to block the line of sight from snipers who are controlling the high grounds. And this will also enable our other snipers, because maybe while, you know, one sniper is distracted, the enemy sniper is distracted, our snipers can get additional value. So just kind of small things to pay attention to there are, again, this high ground and the fact that we by default control it because we control this space as long as they haven't capped second, which means we control the stairs, which means we control this high ground, or at least we have the ability to easily contest this high ground. But then also on top of that, that because, you know, enemies don't generally want to be pushing from this far back area, because it's, what would you call it? Okay, so if enemies push from this far back area, essentially we can just, like, rotate normally and mirror them at the staircase and hold at the staircase. So if we wind up positioning our Ana here normally, all it takes is a single call out to mirror, and then we just rotate our Ana farther back, or rotate our Ana over to underneath the high ground or something like that, so that, you know, we can contest the like best places to contest, because this is going to give you like high ground advantage. This is going to make it so that the enemies have to bottleneck into a space. So if you could hold them at the staircase, it's going to be really good. Now, this is a side tangent. You can mental AFK during this, but if you wind up looking at this rotation, and I'm going to try to clear this up a little bit so that it's easier for you to understand, right? Hold on, let me get rid of this back here. Okay, this is how you big brain in Overwatch, right? So let's say you are the attacking team and you are running what we sometimes run, which is a Hog Winston. And you decide to push your team along this side because you know that they're going to mirror you here. Let's say if you push along this side, if you know that they're going to mirror you here and make a rotation with their Ana, let's say you've done it twice, and then every time they've rotated their Ana to this side, underneath this kind of sniper perch over here, then what you could do is split your hog off to the side so that when the Ana rotates, she's actually extra vulnerable. Because Hog has the ability to survive most situations on his own, which means he doesn't need additional support and can punish other people who are looking to get safer. It is ganking. Yes, it is ganking. This is what you're allowed to do in team-based Overwatch. In ranked, something like this is completely random and arbitrary. It has no impact on your understanding of the gameplay at all. Because then Ana's ability to recognize her proper rotation and the team's ability to recognize where they should contest is a dice roll. It's a fucking dice roll. I will have flash up. Oh my god. But yes, you can do concentrated things like that by splintering people off so that you can take advantage of habits you recognize in the defense or in the offense. So it's not enough to say sometimes like, oh, we know who they're running. What are they doing with who they're running? Where are they placing their heroes? Are they continuously doing the same thing? Teams that are poorly coached will not have any habits aside from their kind of like personal habits. Let's take Shadow for instance, because Shadow has like the most obnoxious habits because he's so aggressive that they're just like the easiest to see. Shadow will always hook as soon as he turns the corner. If he knows you're there, he's gonna hook as soon as he turns the corner, which means you only need to jiggle peek him once in order to break the hook. So every time you see him, you can know that's his individual habit and you can counter him because of it. Team habits are a little bit more complicated and they're dependent on kind of, the structure of the team behind it. Like you guys, I am here so I can do things like this so we can talk about this rotation. But this rotation then leads to benefits and negatives in the larger scope of team play. Okay, side tangent aside, anybody who's zoned out, you can come back now. Okay, so third point is going to have some pretty important high ground that you're going to want to control. Especially as the defenders. So as defenders, this high ground is going to be super duper important to control because it's going to make it really difficult for people to push under it, especially if you're holding both high grounds and kind of putting pincer pressure onto the people underneath. This first corner up here is a space that a lot of tanks will hold. They'll hold like up here. It's not terrible. It just, okay, so like let's paint a scenario so that we can see this from all angles. So this positioning is good for tanks, right? Because it allows them a foothold that they can use. It gives a backflank to the enemy so that they can get back behind you. Okay, that's still counterable because you can just make rotations and punish one of the two splits. There's all sorts of different things that you could do, right? Did Genetic just get here? Hey, Genetic. But let's take, for instance, right? We're going to say yellow is the cart. We're going to make this the cart. And we're going to say that the enemies are pink. And they're kind of like... That's not pink. What the fuck? They are, trying to fight back and contest the cart. Supports are back here healing. You have some DPS taking some wide angles. You have a Lucy or whatever. But yeah, our tanks are in the blue holding this positioning. And then we are holding what we think is good positioning, which is the high ground. So this is good positioning for the tanks. But what sort of sightline does it actually give for our DPS? Not great. And this is actually cutting through the wall a little bit, so you really wouldn't even be able to see all that. Your angle would be more so like this for most DPS. Maybe with, if they're tall enough or if the character model is the correct way that you can take advantage of it. But even though this is a good hold point for tanks, it's not going to be the greatest for DPS because DPS have their own comfortable positions that they want to be playing from so that they don't expend too many resources and don't require too much from the supports or, don't feed too hard or whatever. But because the sightline is poor where the tanks want to hold, we want to rethink how we hold this position. So this position might be a good place to start from. Like, let's say if we're playing Reinhardt, this position might be a good place to start from, but it is not going to be a hill that you die on. Very similar to Eichenwald first point choke, right? Where you're going to want to back up and give your DPS the sight lines that they want in order to be actively able to impact the fight the way they want to, right? It doesn't matter if you buy time here if the time you're buying doesn't help anybody on your team. So supports, you're going to be playing from kind of back here-ish, unless they have a flanker. If they have a flanker, then you're going to want to be playing back here on this mini. The reason is because these two entry points over here on the left and the right are going to actually lead, and this is just for anybody who's not super familiar with the map, this is going to lead directly to their spawn. So this is something that they will have pretty much exclusive access to, and it'll be really hard for us to contest properly, but it's a great way for them to be able to attack our backline when we're playing that far forward. So as attackers, keep that in mind, is that is the space you could take advantage of if they're playing super far forward. If we're not playing a Reinhardt, I suggest we play it similar to First Point, where we kind of have the monkey and the DPS on high ground, and the monkey drops down to contest, and then jumps back out to, you know, stay alive and stuff like that. And then we're going to rotate into this third point area right here where slowly becomes more and more brawl centric. So once they kind of take under that high ground over here, once they kind of clear that first point, if you have the ability to swap your tank picks or your DPS picks to something that, you know, maybe is a little bit more brawly, I would advise you to do so. You could still get away with something like a Widow because the walk up is still going to be very, very long for the attacking team. But once you get into kind of like their on cart, it's going to be almost purely dive in a lot, or almost purely brawl in a lot of different ways. So at least for the tank lineup, I would advise you to swap onto more brawly tanks when you get into this kind of like last corner phase over here, and you know, be maybe a little bit more dive centric through the first point of third, second point, and first point. So anybody, questions, comments, concerns, ideas, go. Oh man, you guys are a lively bunch.
Sorry, I'm getting my food in. This is the first meal of the day.
That's good, that's good. I mean, not good that it's the first meal of the day, but it's good that you're eating at least. Alright, so I'm going to put down the recording, and so